Something's changing in how the media talks about veterans, and it's not in a good way. The post-9/11 days of United We Stand are long gone. Just last week, the Washington Post ran a massive story painting disabled veterans as the next drain on the system, full of talk about skyrocketing claims, minor afflictions, and fraud. If you've served, you already know what that kind of language does. It paints the idea that veterans, not the system, are the problem. And the Post isn't alone. You've got influencers pulling in millions of views by showcasing assumingly naive bad actors as cases and acting like they represent everyone who ever filed a VA claim. So today, I'm breaking this down, not with emotion, but with evidence. Who's pushing this narrative, why it's dangerous, and how veterans can push back the right way. I'm Chris with Operation VeteransEdge. Like, subscribe, and share this with a battle buddy. Let's get into the who's who. First, the news outlet. The Washington Post is owned by Nash Holdings, controlled by Jeff Bezos since 2013. I'm not saying Jeff Bezos wrote the piece or called an editor about it, but if my dog bit you, it's still my dog. Ownership doesn't equal orders, but it does set incentives and pressure for what gets prioritized. Big, provocative narratives that drive attention. Now for the authors. You've got Craig Whitlock, an investigative reporter known for deep, document-heavy work like the Afghanistan Papers. He understands national security storytelling and how to frame scale. And you've got Lisa Rain, a longtime reporter on the federal workforce and VA bureaucracy. Like most, she's looking to climb, and she knows the levers: budgets, processes, backlogs, IG reports. Then you have Caitlin Gilbert, data journalist, turns large data sets into narrative-friendly charts. Data can clarify or it can oversimplify if the definitions are slippery enough. And that's your triangle: ownership plus editorial incentives plus a data-heavy investigative team. When they choose to frame like surge, fraud, small ailments, it lands with authority, even if it blurs crucial distinctions between policy design problems and veteran misconduct. And it's not just legacy media. There are the algorithm amplifiers, finance creators who figured out that they can ride the algorithm by putting veteran cases on screen and letting the internet generalize the worst examples to all of us. That's not data, that's selection bias in a viral suit. It sells outrage, not truth. Now let's look at what the Washington Post actually said and what it conveniently left out. The article frames veterans as part of a disability surge, implying that more claims means more fraud or abuse. It points to minor conditions like tinnitus or sleep apnea being rated too highly. It even uses words like gaming the system. But here's the truth. The VA didn't suddenly start handing out benefits for nothing. Approvals rose because Congress passed new presumptives under the PACT Act, and because more veterans finally started seeking help for things like PTSD and toxic exposure that were ignored for decades. And that so-called surge, it's also demographic math. Aging GWAT and Desert Storm veterans, larger surviving populations, and better access to claims coaching and digital filing tools. Meanwhile, the Post glosses over one key fact: actual fraud is statistically tiny. According to VA OIG data, confirmed fraud cases make up a fraction of 1% of total claims filed. Those claims should absolutely be prosecuted, but they don't define the other 99+% of honest veterans just trying to navigate a brutal system. That's the sleight of hand. They use a handful of outliers to frame the entire community. Here's what the veteran community said back. DAV called the piece shameful and flat out said it stigmatizes veterans who follow the rules and file legitimate claims. Their message was simple: holding up a few fraud cases to smear millions of honest vets is wrong. On Capitol Hill, Ranking Member Mark Takano and a coalition of major VSOs publicly pushed back too. They reminded everyone that recent increases come from laws Congress passed, like the PACT Act, and from vets finally getting screened and treated. More claims doesn't equal more cheating. It often means better access and long overdue recognition. And all of them pointed to the same solution. If you suspect fraud, use the VA Inspector General. Investigate real cases. Don't point a target on every veteran's back with a headline. Quick gut check. Did the Post story change how your non-vet friends talk to you about benefits or how you feel about filing? Tell me what you heard this week. Now for how narratives get built in 3 easy tricks. Trick number 1, cost plus fraud plus surge. Say costs are exploding, sprinkle in a handful of outrageous fraud anecdotes, then point to a surge in claims as proof. The quiet truth they skip is that costs also rise when Congress expands eligibility and more vets finally file. More claims does not equal more cheating. Trick number 2, cherry pick then generalize. Use edge cases, like a bodybuilder that's faking paralysis, etc. and then let the audience assume that's normal. That's not data, that's selection bias dressed up as analysis. Trick number 3, bury the caveats. Acknowledgements like most claims are legitimate get one sentence near the very bottom while the headline primes readers to mistrust veterans, and that's framing 101. Once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. So the next time a big outlet runs a vets gaming the system piece, ask, did they show representative numbers? Did they separate PACT Act-driven filings from fraud cases? Did they tell you how to report actual fraud, or did they just stoke outrage? They reminded everyone, Congress expanded eligibility, PACT Act, long overdue updates, etc. So of course filings rose. That's not proof of cheating, that's policy working. On the Hill, committee voices also flagged the piece for conflating cost growth with misconduct instead of separating 3 different things: new presumptives, backlog throughput, and actual criminal cases. Those are not the same, and responsible coverage keeps them separate. And here's the key point you won't see in the scary headline. The VA Inspector General and DOJ already prosecuted real fraud. There's a process, it exists, so if the story was about fixing fraud, they'd lead with reporting channels and due process, not with sensational outliers and a sweeping narrative about vets gaming the system. Bottom line, when veteran organizations and oversight voices are saying slow down, show the full picture, that's a sign the coverage leaned more on outrage than balance. Have you seen balanced coverage on this anywhere? Drop the outlet or link in the comments so other vets can follow good reporting, not just loud reporting. So what do we do besides getting mad? 3 moves. Number 1, starve the outrage loop. Don't brigade the article, don't harass reporters. Instead, leave a concise, sourced rebuttal wherever it's posted. 1 paragraph, 3 facts max. Point to oversight, VA OIG, policy drivers like the PACT Act and criteria updates, and the difference between cost growth versus fraud cases. Number 2, signal the right channels. If you suspect real fraud, use the VA OIG, not a comments war. That's how you protect the program and honest vets. And number 3, elevate good coverage. Share outlets that separate eligibility expansion, backlog, and criminal cases. Reward nuance with clicks, not just outrage with attention. Do that and you shrink the incentive for gotcha stories that smear millions to headline a few. What's your 1-sentence rebuttal that keeps it respectful and factual? Drop it below and I'll pin it so anybody else that wants to can copy and paste it. If you've watched this far, drop a comment and let me know what you're thinking. I'm Chris with Operation Veterans Edge. If you want help building an evidence-first, by-the-book claim that actually holds up, my team's here. Share this with a battle buddy who needs a sanity check. Facts over fear, veterans over clicks. I'll see you in the next one.